Hey, are you searching for the best insurance for your construction company? Well, stay tuned. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Rob McCarthy here with GRBM, and today we're talking about who the best insurance company is for your construction business. Hey guys, as many of you know, the insurance marketplace in New York is a bit of a crazy one. A lot of insurance companies are known to kind of jump in and out of the market. That's why having an experienced broker who knows the construction marketplace is so important. Not to mention, buying insurance is oftentimes one of the largest expenses for your company outside of payroll. All right, so without further delay, let's get into it. We're going to start with New York City, as a lot of our contractors work in the city, and the risk there is a little bit different than the risk upstate. For New York City, we're going to start with general contractors. Now, for insurance purposes, we define general contractors in a certain way, and that is contractors who hire out subcontractors to perform the majority of the labor. Now, I know sometimes people will call themselves general contractors when they do a lot of the work themselves, but that's kind of a different animal. So when it comes to general contractors in New York City, if you're a larger general contractor, there's really one standout option, and that option is Travelers Insurance. Now, Travelers Insurance is that same Travelers that you've heard of, maybe seen an advertisement on TV for your home and auto insurance. Well, they also do construction, and they do a lot of it. But here's the thing. Qualifying for a quote with Travelers is not an easy challenge. But if you are a larger, commercial-only general contractor operating really anywhere in the state of New York, Travelers is an excellent fit. They provide extremely broad coverage, and they have dedicated staff just for their construction unit. Once again, though, the key is actually qualifying for a quote. Travelers only wants the best of the best when it comes to commercial general contractors. Once again, staying in New York City, if you're a little bit smaller and maybe do some residential work as well, Travelers will no longer be an option for you. But the good news is Prime Specialty offers a very competitive package for your smaller, mixed-use general contractors. Now, Prime doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the Travelers, as far as risk control and site safety training, etc., but they do offer a very good insurance policy and a risk control meeting with an attorney. What's great about Prime is it can be a little bit easier to qualify for a quote, and their underwriting is extremely flexible. So if you take on, a little bit of a unique project, Prime will be there for you. Now, next up, we have the best insurance company for your smaller general contractors. Now, smaller is kind of a relative word, so I'm going to define it for you. For insurance purposes, that would be your guy who's doing maybe between, 400,000 and 2 or 3 million in gross receipts. That would be your smaller general contractor. And for you, Colony Insurance is really the best option. They have a great team of underwriters. They can pump out the quotes really fast, and they do offer very good coverage. Now, next up, we have a great option for the residential-only general contractors. Now, I know that doesn't apply to a lot of people, but if you're doing, renovations or, even some new construction for residential only, there's one insurance company that really stands head and shoulders above the rest, and that is Southwest Marine. Now, I know you've probably never heard of them. Don't worry, they've been providing residential contractors great coverage for several years in the state of New York, which is kind of a rarity. A lot of companies do jump in and out, but Southwest has stuck around. Southwest is also very competitive with pretty low minimum premiums for New York City residential contractors. So that wraps it up for general contractors operating in the city. We're going to move on to trade contractors. Now, within trade contractors, we're going to break it down a little bit, but it's pretty similar for the majority of the trade contractors operating in the 5 boroughs. Now, I'm going to go ahead and define trade contractors a little bit because from an insurance perspective, we might define that a little bit differently than you do as a contractor working in the field. For insurance purposes, a trade contractor or an artisan contractor are the people who actually perform the labor, install the drywall, paint the walls, etc. Those are the trade contractors. So if you are a larger trade contractor operating in the 5 boroughs of New York, and by larger, I would say really greater than $750,000 to $1 million in payroll, there is once again an option from Travelers Insurance. But as before with general contractors, qualifying for a quote, not an easy feat. But if you do qualify, the benefits are great. The benefits you get with Travelers really are more than just an insurance policy if there's a claim. Travelers is working with you to really create a risk and safety focus for the entire company. This helps not only prevent claims, but also helps you know what to do to minimize a loss in the event that there is a claim. It's a great benefit that not too many insurance companies are offering. But what if you don't qualify for Travelers? What if you're a little bit smaller, you don't have $750,000 to $1 million in payroll? What are the options? Is there still good ones? Can you get good coverage? Yes. Minico is an insurance company that a lot of people have not heard of, but just because you haven't heard of Minico doesn't mean they're not offering great coverage for your trade contractors in the 5 boroughs. Minico is especially good if maybe you hire an occasional subcontractor and they perform some work on your behalf. Because their policy is rated on gross sales, it really doesn't matter if your guys are directly performing the work or you're hiring those guys to do it. The cost is the same. Minico is also pretty flexible when it comes to what they'll allow you to do and what they won't. There's not a lot of trades that they're going to restrict and not offer a quote for. The key, once again, though, is making sure that your business is on the top tier when it comes to safety and risk management practices, because all of these insurance companies really only want the best of the best. Now, there is another option for your New York City trade contractors, but there is a caveat to that. This company really only wants to work with trade contractors that subcontract none of the work. If you're going to subcontract work, this is not the company for you. They want 100% direct labor performed by your guys. But if that is the case, which I know is a rarity in New York, a lot of people like to hire subs occasionally, but Merchants Mutual Insurance Company, a great New York-only company based out of Buffalo, will insure you if you do not subcontract any of the work. The benefit of Merchants is super aggressive pricing, New York-only company, so all their claim staff, their underwriters, everybody's here based in New York. Seems like a small thing, but it really makes a big difference when you're talking to them, communicating, when a claim happens. That difference can really go a long way. Another great thing about Merchants is their minimum premiums are pretty much the lowest for anyone offering coverage in New York City. Now, when I was talking about trade contractors, that doesn't mean everyone who does their own labor. I do have a couple of other types of contractors operating in the 5 boroughs that we're going to separate out. Reason being, these are just a little higher risk than your normal trade contractors, and so those companies that I mentioned won't really be interested in helping out. The first trade that we're going to talk about that's not included in that is roofing. Now, if you're a roofer, you're watching this, you know it's a huge challenge to get good insurance coverage. Year after year, Admiral Insurance Group offers a very good policy at a pretty competitive rate for roofing contractors. Now, as you might know, there's not a lot of options, but Admiral is a really good one. They offer a fairly low minimum premium, but they're not really looking to compete with the cheapest options, as their coverage is a lot broader than the competition out there. Another type of contractor that doesn't really fall under trade or artisan contractors is your scaffolding and rigging contractors. Now, as you might know, scaffolding and rigging is probably the most dangerous thing happening in the 5 boroughs. You get a scaffolding contractor working, 50 stories up, somebody falls off. It's a huge mess. However, there is a company willing to insure you for your scaffolding, provide good coverage, and that is American Empire. Now, American Empire is kind of like the Rock of New York City when it comes to insurance. They always offer good coverage, but not necessarily always at the most competitive pricing, because their pricing is the same. You'll have some new company that comes into the market and maybe undercuts everyone. American Empire keeps their pricing just the same, always. Everyone else is up and down, up and down. American Empire just stays the same. But that allows them to stay in the marketplace. And so if you get a policy with American Empire, your pricing is going to stay flat. You're going to get a renewal every year pretty much. And there's a lot to be said for that, especially when it comes to scaffolding and rigging. Because American Empire is not the easiest to qualify for a quote with, having that stability is great because it doesn't force you to shotgun out your insurance to every insurance company in the market that maybe might offer you a quote. You're going to expect the same thing over and over from American Empire. Now, there's one other trade that we're going to separate out when it comes to New York City insurance, and that is your environmental guys. And those are the people that clean up your asbestos, your fire water. Sometimes you might call it like a ServPro type risk or something like that. Because of the different exposures when you're talking about environmental work, you really need more than just general liability. You also need your pollution liability. And so for those type of contractors, we recommend Nautilus Insurance Company. Now, Nautilus is great. They offer a combined pollution liability and general liability to really make sure you're covered wherever that claim kind of falls. What's great about Nautilus is they really have a unique underwriting approach, and they want to get to know your entire business and make sure that you're fully fully covered. Nautilus also has fairly low minimum premiums, and they can work with you even if you've maybe had some claims in the past. They have different pricing structures to make things work so that you can still get the best insurance coverage. Now, bottom line, if you're working in New York City, having the best insurance coverage is absolutely critical. Lawsuits fly around, payouts are huge, so you really need to make sure that you have the best insurance available for your business. If you're interested, you can schedule a call with the link below. All right, guys, so we're finally going to move outside of New York City, and we're going to talk about the different types of contractors and the best insurance company for those of you not working in the 5 boroughs of New York. The good news is when it comes to working outside the 5 boroughs, things kind of open up. There's a lot more options once you start working outside of New York City. Whereas in New York City, depending on your business and stuff like that, there might be maybe 5 different insurance companies that'll offer you a quote. When you get outside the city, there's anywhere from maybe 10 or 15, but just because there's so many options doesn't mean there's that many that are good. There's a lot of companies that offer quotes, but they're really not up to the task. Now, I'm not here to bash any of those insurance companies, but we are going to talk about who the best are for your upstate New York contractors. Now, once again, if you're a general contractor, by insurance terms, we define that as someone who subcontracts out the majority of the construction labor. Within that, we're going to break it down a little bit further, but we're going to start with the larger commercial-only general contractors. Now, if that sounds like your business, the best insurance company is Travelers. Now, once again, Travelers, great insurance company. We've probably all heard of them. However, qualifying for a quote, not so easy. You have to be larger. They're looking for 10 million or more in gross receipts, which automatically eliminates a lot of you from getting a quote. No worries, there are other options. However, before we move on to those other options, I just want to touch a little bit more on Travelers. Travelers, when you qualify for a quote, they give you really everything. On-site safety training, on-site risk management control meetings. It's great. They sell you a lot more than an insurance policy, and that value is incredible. Now, if you aren't large enough to qualify for a quote with Travelers, there are still options to get good coverage. One of those being Colony Insurance Group. Colony offers great coverage for your small to mid-size commercial general contractor operating in the state of New York. What's great about Colony is really simple ISO-based policies and pretty low minimum premiums. Now, if you were listening carefully, I said for both Travelers and Colony, you're really talking about the commercial general contractors. However, if you're doing residential only, or let's say 95% of your stuff is residential, there is another option with even lower minimum premiums and great coverage. That insurance company is Southwest Marine. Southwest Marine has been offering residential home builders, or as they like to call them, luxury home builders, and residential renovation contractors great insurance. What's great about Southwest is if you're doing new construction, and specifically non-track homes, which they would define as, single, one-off, not like a whole big planned community, they rate your policies based on the number of new homes built rather than gross receipts or payroll or subcontractor costs. The number of new homes is really easy, allows you to know really quickly what your audit is going to be. Now that about wraps it up for upstate general contractors. So we're going to move on to the artisan or trade contractors for upstate New York. Because there are so many more options upstate, I did separate it a little further because the best insurance company for carpenters is not necessarily the best insurance company for your plumbers or electricians. So without further delay, let's get into it. For carpentry contractors operating in upstate New York, the best insurance company is Main Street America. Now, Main Street America provides really broad, good coverage, and they'll even offer your umbrella and commercial auto in addition to that general liability policy. Main Street America provides a great value when compared to other insurance policies offering good coverage. Moving on, electrical contractors and plumbing contractors both have one great option with Merchants Mutual. Now, Merchants Mutual, New York only company based out of Buffalo. Here's the great thing. Merchants Mutual does not rate on payroll or gross receipts. All they rate on is the number of employees you have. So you're not going to pay more if you have that plumber who makes, $90,000 a year, or if you have that plumber who makes $70,000 a year. And here's the great thing, their pricing per employee is outstanding. But here's the thing, for electricians and plumbers, Merchants Mutual, they do a bit of underwriting. They really only want the best contractors. But if you qualify, their pricing, their service, and their simplicity in rating is excellent. So moving on, we're going to talk about roofing contractors. The best insurance company for roofing contractors in upstate New York is the same as the best insurance company for roofing contractors operating in the city, Admiral Insurance Group. Now, you are in luck because if you're operating upstate, their rating a lot more favorable than if you're operating in the 5 boroughs. But the coverage is the same. You still get excellent coverage designed just for roofing contractors. Also, once you take that 5 boroughs exclusion, the minimum premiums drop way down. When compared to the competition, Admiral is really head and shoulders above the competition. All right, so moving on to the very last best insurance company in New York, we're going to talk about environmental contractors. Now, environmental contractors, your fire, water, mold, asbestos, sometimes even your demolition contractors, we can lump all into environmental. Now, if you're operating outside of the 5 boroughs, the best option is Hamilton Insurance Company. Now, I know a lot of you have probably never heard of Hamilton, but they're a great player. They're very tech savvy. Their underwriting process is great, and they'll offer your combined general liability and pollution liability, which is an absolute must for any sort of environmental contractor. Now, at the end of the day, regardless of where you operate, having the right insurance coverage is critical. By purchasing a bargain basement insurance policy, you can get left out to dry when a claim happens. The great news is, if you're a best-in-class risk and qualify for one of these best insurance companies, the price difference is probably not going to be that significant. If you're concerned that your business doesn't have the best insurance coverage, schedule a call below.